Okay, we'll call to order regular scheduled school board meeting for USD 37. The agenda, I've got to change and then we can go, but so on motion approve the agenda with the following.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Nice weather, a lot better things to do probably, so appreciate you doing that. And all those watching, thanks for being a part of the meetings. Communications, I don't have anything. Just looking, so the consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda items you'd like to ask? That I move to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
And a second. Carries. 7.
Tracy, was there anyone on the open forum?
What's that? She has to do things open before and go with me, but it's not open for. So, okay, reports, board reports.
Yeah, I wanted to commend the administration at the high school for calming the interactions that were getting a little elevated during one of the games last week. They did a nice job of keeping things under control. And then I wanted to commend specifically the student section for the next game for finding a way to make sure that it didn't happen again. You know, I don't know if that's why they turned their back on the court every time there was a free throw, but I thought it was a great way of handling the situation. I do want to commend all of our winter sports activities participants. We've had so many that have had great successes, and I know we'll recognize the state award letter winners later on, but it's been great to see our students succeed in all the things that they're doing. And then addressing our team members, thank you to our district teams, our employees, our schools, building teams who have found ways to meet the budget cuts necessary for next fall. I know it hasn't been easy. And I know that it hurts a little bit. I truly appreciate their willingness to change to meet the district needs.
Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to add, a sincere thank you to our students for the major improvements that I've seen in daily attendance. That have former principal reports and congratulations to also to our staff for their unwavering commitment towards this goal. And I think it looked like it was really great report there on for our buildings. Appreciate that. Also a shout out to our students of the month, student athletes of the month, and basically everyone else that participates in our district music and forensic successes. It's been a big asset there. And they need a committed for that. And I also would like to thank Phil Casper for going above and beyond his primary duties to assist in custodial services at CCCHS. That's very good. Thank you for that.
Very good. Anybody else? Anything like that? Okay. No, we'll do on. Brett?
I'm sorry, is you guys' board docs working okay? Mine was struggling. So, yeah, I got it now. So, really, I won't bore you with reading everything. Just a big quick update on our health insurance and benefit process. Jason, feel free to share if I miss anything. Jason participates on that committee. The committee heard presentations from 2 benefit providers options. last week and will meet this week to make their final recommendations and bring to you in, April on whether or not they think we ought to change companies, number one, and if we would like to change which company. So really good information. I think they were really thorough presentations, a lot to consider.
You know, I felt like it was. Shouldn't say my opinion because we haven't decided as a group yet, but I think there's some really good options out there that could save teachers a lot of money.
But anyhow, that was good. I think it's been a good process and looking forward to meeting with them and finding out what their recommendations will be moving forward. So. Rest of my stuff is later in the meeting.
Anybody have any questions on that? If not, we just attended another board meeting, so we'll go to Jackson.
Okay, I'll answer any questions you have off my report, but the very first thing we have is a group of 10 of us spent the day in Salina with KSDE staff and the Smoky Hill Service Center working on our district action plan. And we're looking at standard alignment and structured literacy. And so our team will get back together April 2nd and kind of narrow down where we're headed. So at the April board meeting, we can provide you with an update there. But it was a good day and a lot of good work, and kind of hard to pick one thing you want to work at, but that's the whole purpose, is pick one thing and do good at it. So we had some good conversations and look forward to sharing that with you. I have just a little bit of info on preschool in here for you, kind of related to the funding, as well as that definition of at risk. So there's a lot of different factors that come into play there. And I also have information here on summer learning, which I'm sure some of you will have some questions on, so we'll probably come back to that. Parent teacher conference results and turnout, and just a reminder, end of the third quarter is this week. Report cards go out five school days after the grades are due, so that would be the last Friday, March 28th, because spring break falls next week. If you'll notice, our senior laptops are, I kind of put the history there, and the price that's reflected is what the recycle value is, and the current senior laptops cannot be updated as far as the processor within them. That's why it's a little bit lower than last year's. And then give you an update on the technology budget as well. So any questions or anything you want to discuss, I'd be happy to. From the project lead, how many students are in the project? It ranges from 100 to 120 on a daily basis. That's in Clay Center. Yeah, in Wakefield, it's between 25 and 35, depending on the day. Okay. I do want to say it's not in here, but I'm in the process of rewriting Wakefield's after school grant. And there is a competitive priority point if you add a high school piece to it. So last Friday, I met with the high school kids and let them give some feedback. At first, actually, I should say first, I asked the parents, do you see a need for this? And if they said yes, then I needed the students to say they would come. So we needed to give them a little bit of information. And so they're filling out a survey for me right now as far as yes or no. Would you come or would you not come? Because I said, I don't want to write it in there if you're not going to come. So, but if it's something you would be interested in for some tutoring, some extra academic help, and some clubs or type of things for them, especially those not involved in sports or those who are waiting maybe for a home game or whatever. And so far I've had some really good feedback. I had, I'd say half of the kids answer. And even asked the seniors, would you have participated if this had been available to you? So we'll see how their survey shakes out. I'll be finishing up that grant next week during spring break, so. We'll potentially be writing that in there for them too, so.
I appreciate you putting together the information on the summer's cost.
Sure.
And, well, and this is not direct towards anybody, I'm just disappointed we can't do more, but the budget situation is. It's got it, I mean, we've got to do all kinds of reductions, and so. Hopefully we'll find a way to do something a little bit more extensive here in the future. We'll get through the budget stuff, but I completely, when you look at the budget numbers, we had to do things already, it's just, it's not feasible to work out. There's somewhere, how disappointed I am with that, but that's where we're at. With the numbers, so it's something I'd definitely like to try to get back to do a little bit more if we can, So I did have one other thing, the state assessments.
Not until the fall, because they adjusted enough. They adjusted enough questions on the test. They're not saying it's a new test, but enough adjustments that they have to. Redo the benchmarks for the different
Try to
levels.
get it to where it's
Mhm.
comparable.
They're right now predicting sending the levels in August to the state board, and so they would have 1 month to review before they would approve them. And then if they approve the levels, then they'd be able to let us know how kids did. So essentially, it's a new baseline year because so many enough questions have changed on ELA and math that they're redoing the benchmarks, so.
Anybody else have anything for that? Appreciate the information. Sure. We'll go on now, discussion of business items, new courses going out there.
I think 4 of them are CTE related. The state made some adjustments in the pathways. And then the last one, this integrated math option. It's a nice transition as a third math credit. If you are potentially heading maybe to a contemporary math class instead of statistics or college algebra. So, and again, that's all pending. There's the need or the staff, but they wanted to get your approval to offer it. So.
I think that comes up the next month.
Next week, yeah.
Yeah. So that information's in there. Any questions on that tonight? We'll take that up next month. Information. Don, we'll move to the next one, the bond discussion. Brett?
Yes, thank you. So obviously, this is something we've been talking about for a year or more. And completed the facilities audit and put a few bond experts or in front of you to give you some information about financing and terms. And obviously, you've seen the VHS facility stuff, heard from SPT on their services and what they could provide. And so the purpose of tonight is we're kind of at the crossroads of, do we want to continue investing time, energy, and money into the process and proceed forward with the planning? Because we're kind of at that point to where if we're going to proceed, we're going to need to start devoting quite a bit of time and energy to the process, and that would be including at this table, starting to refine and narrow down scope. And obviously all the other pieces that you've heard that would go into that. And so I don't want to charge our staff and myself with any more time and effort if it's something you guys don't want to do. But if it is still something that you would like to us to pursue, is what I would ask for tonight would be a formal motion that would say that you want to charge me with the continuing the process of bringing you information regarding a potential bond issue for the spring of 2026.
Thoughts or discussion?
And just to clarify, the intention would be at this time, looking at that tax neutral bond approach.
Right, it would definitely be tax neutral. What would be in it, we would have to move forward. If we decide to do that, then we would have to start working towards the specifics on how we want to handle that. And in my opinion, there's two concepts to it. One is if we want to consolidate a building, get rid of the temporaries at Lincoln, add a few classrooms. That, or the other would be is just all maintenance, big maintenance projects that we need to get taken care of. And that's nothing has to be decided tonight, but to me, that's the two different avenues to approach on it. Thoughts?
I don't, my feelings on this, and I've been looking at it from all angles. And I feel we're getting the cart before the horse by setting a spring bond deadline. For one thing, and it's gonna be 12 months away. 2026, spring of 2026, so.
And it may get put off to the fall, when we all get going, but the goal would be to try to get it done by. We got a fall where this process all needs to stay.
And I just. In saying that, in retrospect, the cart before the horse is that we've reviewed and have discussed our 5-year capital improvement plans and our projects. Now, at the same time, we're also looking at completing. Have we completed, or have we even 100% completed all of 2023's capital improvement projects? For starters, on the 5-year capital outlay plan or capital improvement plan. Now, another thing too is that, okay, if we're going to go into this, then I feel that we need to precisely narrow down the scope of improvements between what we're going to do with capital outlay and what we're currently doing on the projects that we have slated. And what is potentially can be held off, if any at all, for a future bond. Now, I just think that we need to apply some fiscal common sense with the taxpayers in mind in proceeding towards and baby steps towards this, instead of just saying, all right, we're looking at a potential spring of 2026. And even if it is fall 2026, I'd rather make sure we get it right. That's my whole big ticket item. And especially when the taxpayers, the ultimate people that are going to be deciding if we're even going to do it. I mean, I don't go into this and make a bunch of promises and then find out, hey, we can't do it.
All you can do is put it on the election, and if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. If it passes, then you move forward.
But you need to make sure that everybody understands fully.
Sure, and I'm not, it's kind of like we're cutting positions and cutting staff and cutting $500,000 from our budget. And now we're talking about adding on to buildings and doing things like that. So which direction are we going here? So I personally think anything under $75,000 on that list ought to be done out of our capital outlay. And anything over $100,000 ought to be considered in a bond issue, because you're never ever going to get it done if you don't. We've talked about the gym floor at Clay Center High School for 10 years. 10 years. And we haven't done one thing about it. We've talked about the parking lot up there now for 2-3 years. Haven't done nothing about it. So, there's some things that we just can't afford to do out of our capital outlay, that the only way you're ever going to get it done is, I'm not too hip about paving the parking lot of the softball deal. I look over there at Manhattan at Seco Park, and you got a rodeo arena, a football field, and now they're redoing softball fields, and they had a paved parking lot there. Not one. So, you got to think about that too. If the city of Manhattan and Manhattan School District doesn't want to pave a parking lot, why do we worry about paving a parking lot? So there's some things that we could take off that list. But the other thing to me is, are we doing an $8 million bond? Are we doing a $12 million bond? What are we doing?
And are we gonna do it for 10 years? We're gonna do it for 15 years? I think that's something we need to decide as a board, and then you need to plug in what you're gonna put in that. To make it work, because until we say how big a bond we're gonna do and how long we're gonna do it. But there's no better time now to do it with one expiring and the other one taken on, because then your tax issue doesn't change. So now's the time if we're gonna do it. You don't wanna let that one lapse and then all of a sudden say 2 years from now, we wanna do a bond issue. Cause then you're gonna have to change something in the mill levy to make it work. And that's when your taxpayers pay more than what they're paying now. That's just my opinion about it. So, but I think those things on that list that they gave us that are 5,000, 20,000, 40,000. I mean, they got cabinets in there. They got an $8,000 cabinet going in a library or somewhere. Why are we spending $8,000 on a cabinet? I mean, we got a wood shop. We got I'm, there's a lot of different things we can do with something like that. But those are the things that I think we need to take off that bond consideration list and try to work them in our 10-year capital outlay plan. We've talked about getting away from a 5-year and going to a 10-year so that everybody has a better understanding of what's going on and where we're going to put things. And then you don't have people going, when are we going to do that? When are we going to do that? Well, this is where we plug that in our 10-year cycle. So, I mean, I think as a board, we need to decide first how much we think we're going to spend or we want to try to spend and how long. Because then that's going to depend on what we put in it, to tell you the truth. So.
Was our last bond 15 years?
It was longer than that. We had a wraparound on that, but then we refinanced it and cut it down even more after the fact. Since I've been on the board, we had a bond in 2000, 2001, we had one in 2015, and now if we do this one, it'll be the third go. But in 2001, we air conditioned every building in the district. We built a new gym at Wakefield. We built the library at Clay Center High School. We added the wing on at Garfield. I mean, it was but those were the needs we had at the time. So now we really need to think about, okay, what are the needs and how are we going to pay for it? But then, okay, can we fit that in 8 million, 10 million, 12 million? Okay, so now we say we're going to do a $10 million bond. How long is it going to take to pay for it? Okay, then we got to plug in what we think we can squeeze into that with a 10 to 15% cost in, goods over the next 3 or 4 years of what's going to happen. I mean, as far as that goes. So I think things are going to change big time purchasing wise, the way things are going for everybody. I mean, as far as that goes.
And just to clarify, I agree with you, Jeff, from my perspective, we've spent so much time and energy collecting all of this information and putting it all together, trying to keep you informed and our public informed. And from my point of view, the last couple of years, we've stayed revenue neutral. We've decreased the capital outlay mill levy. And so I feel like I'm at a crossroads right now of, for me to develop a 10-year plan, we need to know if a bond's an option or if a bond's not an option, because that makes a huge difference, even with next year's capital outlay on what we schedule and what we prioritize versus what might be able to be in a bond versus capital outlay. So yes or no, if you guys say, no, we're not doing a bond, we don't want to go in that direction, that's information. And I can build you a capital outlay plan for your review and approval that has no option of a bond. But if the bond is an option, that's an important piece of information. And we together can start building a cohesive plan that starts moving the puzzle pieces around. Yeah, rejecting some things and they're putting this in capital outlay, putting that in bond. And that's kind of the nudge that I need from you is, do you want to spend that time and energy the next 12 months figuring out how we move the puzzle pieces around? And if we're unsure that we're going to ask for a potential bond issue, that makes it really hard to move puzzle pieces around. That's my perspective.
And the other thing too is the midterm or the election in November of 26 would probably be more feasible, because then it wouldn't be a special election in April. to have it since everything's moved to November. I mean, school board elections, city elections, government elections, everything's moved to November, but maybe I'm wrong. They used to have school board, city elections, all that stuff in April. A couple of years ago, they switched all that. So, you know, if you do it in the spring of 26, you're gonna be paying for a special election.
Do you have to budget for your bond in July? Bill?
Yeah. Yeah, you would.
And so that makes it really problematic.
Can you do that?
Well, there's a lot of factors that play in there, you know, your state aid, because you can only budget for a bond for a payment that you have. And if, because you're always collecting a year ahead.
Yeah.
And so if you waited until the fall of 2026, you would have already lost your levy for the bond fund for
True,
that year.
True.
Because we will collecting for that payment all next year to make the final payment in September.
Because that final payment on that bond now is a year from now, right?
September.
September of 26.
And so we're, next year, this July, we'll budget to collect that revenue to have enough cash to make the payment in September. And so if we would wait for September 26, you would have a zero bond levy going into that election.
Election year, yeah. Which, that's not what you want.
So the ideal to have it before May.
Yes.
Yeah, before school starts, May of 26.
And if you look at the last 5 years of bond election success and not success, the success rate has been drastically higher in a spring election versus a fall. I don't know why that is.
It might be the only thing on the ballot.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. And I think as long as you have it before the end of the fiscal school year. And you do your budget,
Then you're,
they're okay.
see, when we do our budget in July and you guys approve that, they won't. Typically, we'll have some flexibility in how much we carry over in our cash basis within the bond fund that adds some protections in there. That becomes limited if you have a payoff date. So even going into this July, we're not gonna have as much flexibility as we would typically, because they're not gonna, the state, and rightfully so, isn't gonna want you to collect
Money for
Much-
something that ain't gonna happen.
much more than you need to make your final payment.
Well, I agree that we don't need to have all the bells and whistles and, go for the top end budget and, I'm in favor of what do we need to keep our buildings operational, keep them comfortable for a good learning environment? But I think we can get that accomplished for an election for spring of 2026. And it looks like, today we just need to say, hey, are we in favor of working towards a bond? Yes or no, and then we will have lots of opportunity to discuss and hash out all the rest of this, right?
Right. So mine is that with everything that needs to be done, if we do it through a bond, we can keep revenue neutral pretty much, keep our capital outlay consistent, that people can plan on that. But if we try to fix some of these things through the budget, we're gonna have to raise the capital outlay to cover it. That's just the truth.
You can only go to 8.
So, yeah, so it'd be a lot more, this is a lot more stable for the community to take care of these big dollar items that we can do. But ultimately, I'm great, and I think the community is ones that needs to decide on a vote if they want to do that. And so, with that, I make the motion that we continue planning for a bond election in the spring of 2026.
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-2. So we'll start the discussions. The next one, budget reductions. Dave and Shane want to give you guys a little bit of time for questions and like that. I thought this would be more appropriate than having a special meeting, is a chance to discuss and ask questions, or anybody else.
What I had right here on the budget reduction sheet. Anyway, and I said on there, it looked like, our building budget reductions of 10%. My question would have been, is like, is there a detailed list of each building that's been presented for 10%?
No, that will be up to the bill. Once they get allocated, we'll just reduce their allocation by 10%, and then
Do
they'll
you understand how they get their building budget money? It's so much per student.
per pupil.
So just gonna take 10% off of that money that's allocated from out of the general fund to those buildings.
And they decide.
So they're gonna decide what they're gonna spend it on or not spend it on. But they're just gonna get 10% less money than they had the previous year.
And then, the CTE budgets, I just clarification on that.
Same kind of deal. There's a set budget that goes to each of the CTE pathway teachers and they get an equipment line and a PD line. Similar to what the building principals get for their buildings. And, that 10,000, it'll just, wherever the numbers are lower or everybody will take a little bit of a hit. And then, if there's a pathway that's lower. It's hard to take away from one that has more students, if that makes sense, so might just adjust it that way, but similar, I have a CTE number and I'll just take 10,000 off of that and. They'll adjust accordingly. Then it's 10,000 flat on the CTE one, so.
Then, especially in the tier one, I see here we have elimination of summer help, $3,000. So in what capacity or position is that? I mean, I see it's coming out of the transportation.
So there's two things there, Dave, and so when 3 years, when did we start summer learning? 4 years ago?
21.
So we had to add more summer help, obviously, because custodians are having to keep buildings clean and do their summer cleaning. And so our plan is to go back to pre-summer school levels of staffing. And so each spring, our transportation and our maintenance department will bring me recommendations on what their needs are for additional help in the summer. And then based on what we agree on, they'll put it out to the folks who have done that in the past and say, okay, here's how many people we need for the summer for the bus barn and for maintenance. And then once we establish that, then they go have those conversations with those people that traditionally help with summer. And then that'll come to you for approval for summer help in, is it May?
April or May.
April,
Depends on
May,
it.
I can't remember, but, and so we're just making those reductions based on very similar to what we would have been, pre-summer.
Okay, thank you. And then, what I had right here was classified reductions and, what I just did a maintenance, looks like the maintenance side. So anyway, I'm just curious to see on what position that we're
Is it
looking at.
tier 1 or tier 2?
In tier one.
Which one?
Or excuse me, I'm sorry, tier two.
Yeah, so we don't know. We haven't identified those and because we didn't have to get to tier 2 or tier 3. But to equalize it out, the reduction across our system, each department and or building would look at a reduction. So we slated it as an FTE, not a person. If that makes sense.
As of now, I think we've hit all,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, we hit our goal when we were at tier 1 and everyone who had a job with us this year that wants a job for next year was offered and has the job for next year. No one would have lost their job. So we were able to accomplish all of our moves and changes through attrition and retirements.
The only thing I had left and it kind of it just coincides with tier one, type, well, in fact, with basically all the tier reductions of what I'm looking at it here. That's if they're implemented. And I know that we're eliminating, some classified, type of reductions, and we're looking at on what's posted. But I just noticed on February 19th this, 2025's, Clay County Coalition meeting notes that we have here, that USD 379 is also looking at making Y-Link a paid supplemental position next year for CCCHS in Wakefield. And to me, I'm thinking that we're making budget reductions, even though we are doing it positions also across the board, according to the tier. So, where are we gonna get the extra supplemental money then for this position? And that's my question.
Sure, so supplementals are always considered through negotiation, so if we want to add something to a supplemental, it goes through negotiations. And so that would be the board negotiating with the Teachers Association, and for example, if we had $300,000 of new money in base aid per pupil to look at through negotiations, an addition of a supplemental could be considered as a part of your new money. You could do away with a supplemental to add a supplemental. We've done that in the past. But generally speaking, in the last few years, if we've added a supplemental, it's been through the use of new base aid per pupil. Which obviously comes out of the pot that's available for.
Yeah.
You know, insurance cost increases or staff raises or wage raises. Those are all things that the board considers through the negotiation process.
Thank you.
Which we're starting here soon. In April, we'll start that. And I'll be a part of that.
And lots of times with our ADs, as student numbers ebb and flow in sports, if they need a coach in a sport, my approach to them usually is, okay, well, where are we gonna reduce in another sport? So it's a neutral move versus an added cost. So that can be an approach too with club.
Good point, Dave.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? On the budget reductions? This time? Well, they get, they're hard on it, to drop in enrollment. And it's necessary to do it and go through it and address it. I'm very thankful we didn't have to jump into tier 2 and tier 3 and then we'll see now how much state aid we get and what else we can address. So. Wheels? All right. We'll move on to the next one, the waiver of the conflict, the local representation.
Capital project.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I got you. Oh, yeah, capital projects bid review. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we, in your board packet tonight, we, in this year's capital outlay plan, I think we had 35,000 budgeted in capital outlay to finish up some flooring stuff. We put that out to RFP and we had a bid come in at $32,000 to accomplish that scope of work. And so that's in your packet for consideration tonight. And in April, we'll bring you the remaining summer projects bid. It came in higher than we wanted. And so we are having to, the good news is the auditorium project, it was well within scope and cost. So, and they have no concerns about hitting a summer timeline for completion. So I'm very confident that nothing will change there. It's on all the smaller ones. We're gonna have to narrow our scope on some things to meet our budget needs. And potentially, even consider maybe adding a little bit to our budget on a few of those. We had, remember this year, we had about 200,000 in additional state aid. And so something that we may be talking to you about next month is looking at that series of projects. And hindsight's always 20/20, but we have a couple of different ways of looking at it. But is what we learned was some of our smaller operations, the auditorium, when the auditorium was tied to it, kind of scared some contractors away from bidding on the projects because the auditorium is just such a specialty item. And so we're gonna look at that RFP a little bit differently and at minimum use the auditorium as the base bid And then add the others as alternates so that we have the flexibility to pick and choose. Again, hindsight, we put it out as a package, and so because we put it out as a package, we couldn't pick and choose what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do, but according to some of our partners, they feel like April approval will still put us in a good shape to get it.
Does this finish the flooring in Lincoln?
Yes.
So where else do we have flooring?
I need to get, that's on our capital outlay list for this spring for Craig to go and find out
Okay.
what else we got left. There's,
We've been doing flooring for 10 years too.
I know, and then we'll get done and then it'll be, I mean,
I know.
maintenance will just start.
But
back
it's,
over.
we've gone from the wax to the no wax, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
There's more upside with those.
Mhm.
Okay,
So next month we will have the auditorium we'll have it done this summer. And we just gotta change it up a little bit since it all together came up a little hot.
I move to give final approval to accept the bid from Floor Perfect LLC in the amount of $32,020.50 to be completed in the summer of 2025.
second,
Motion a second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Now, waive of conflict and multiple recommendation.
So, as you know, we've been talking about this for a while. The disorganization of 334 does require a lot of behind the scenes support with legal documents and such, and so. KSB has an attorney on staff. And for them to be able to represent all of us, technically, they're not really doing much on our behalf, but as a part of their requirements. They would need you guys to agree to a waiver of conflict saying that that one attorney can represent all districts.
This is KSB attorney, so I think just, I think all that's moved in the right direction, so. I don't see no.
We don't have to vote on this.
I think you do.
Yeah. This will be.
If they're gonna move forward.
too, because of moving forward.
Well, it is, but
So tell me.
I mean,
if
we
we're
pay,
good
we
for it.
pay to be part of that fund, we might as well use them.
Yeah.
I move to agree to waive all conflicts that may arise because of the representation of our district and the other districts listed on the document.
Motion.
That's nice, Joel.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll all have to sign it anyway, so.
Send it around.
Second.
Got a
So
second.
now you throw that.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. The only the ball hadn't decided that we can break it with that. Here, then we'll have somebody with the change, so this is the approval of curriculum. Jack, what do you want to give us?
Yeah.
Nothing's
nothing
changed
new.
from last month when we were presenting information. Anything that has any questions on it? But I move to approve the HGSS proposal as presented.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Very good. And again, that was a great experience for me to be a part of that. And the staff did a great job of going through that. And I enjoyed being a part of that. Next meeting then is that a few things on there. So the capital outlay, the 10-year thing now, we'll get that put together. So we can start to look at that.
And it'll be a draft, because a lot of it will move and change
Back and
based
forth.
on.
But at least we'll have something to get started with on there. We'll have certified staff, renewal, the staff, and start in on the review of the handbooks. And then the capacity recommendations that we have to do now each year for out of district students, set limits of out of district, what we can handle. That's be yearly approved.
Hey, on that capital outlay deal. Have you said somebody was coming to look at that track in Wakefield? Did anybody ever come and look at it?
I do believe Jason met them down there.
Because it's not getting any better.
Last. Benyon, the original company that put it in, he's been coordinating with, but I'll check, but
Okay.
I think
just
he met with him
curious, 'cause
last week.
Down there at that south end, it's not, I mean, it's not getting any better, so we might need to do something different.
Could we add the bond issue to the, pretty much every
That
meeting? we
discussion.
run through?
Yeah, we'll put something on there, and no doubt, we'll start that. So. Is that, I also have on there is, we can put the presentation. Program.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'll have from my report, the technology bits out of the technology plan, and then, the new courses.
Okay,
We'll be back on next.
and then, the, credit recovery numbers.
Yeah, I can get those to you guys this week too,
Okay.
if you want, that would make it.
Anything, anybody else, anything? I'll talk to it, like I say, you can always email it. Like it's on there, when we do the gym planning. So it's what good to always have another person join us, so you can feel free to work with August to get signed up, get signed up for that. Anything else there? Is that, and then I guess also we have on there. Services like, right. That's in here, okay. All right, if that's it, then we'll take a break, short break here, and then we'll, enter our executive session.
Yes, I know.
So, think about what I called it. Business you work out, starting to do things.
Right.
You remember what I called it? We're gonna have, did you consider that? The board meeting today? We gotta start doing this, or construction.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a thing that's working, sure, you know. So.
Yeah. Oh, really?
You're seeing it like Wendy, was other charges too much.
Yeah.
We don't make it, and we don't. Now, I say that. If somebody man. Will sign a big piece of land as new, you go to construction, but they won't do it off the plan.
Yeah.
You know, we're just to have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that.
That is like, bring the whole new.
Yeah.
Life.
We don't see that. With that.
Yeah, no kidding.
We got 3 blocks there. So we can.
Oh.
Boom, boom, boom. Right across the street.
Yeah.
Better for you, you don't want to make it.
There's 6, 7, 8,
Gotta get the.
plus the 3, that's 11 blocks.
Take that time.
12, 13 right now, I can think of, but don't have any specials.
Good.
Hello, the guy.
That's.
Hoping my interest rate will drop just a little bit, me too. It would drop 1%.
The tender's been crazy. It's a 3.9 or something like that.
Yeah, it was even like a 15 years, like 5.5 or 5.6 now.
But you almost all.
30 years, the ones that everybody will do, but it's the highest rate.
But you almost all mortgages are based off. the 10-year.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks it's off the 30 years. No, it's off the 10-year. And that's been really sticks. As the bank cut rates went to have, the 10-year was up.
10 year goes up, but everything else
Just
went
that
down.
everything. I started. Where they spend.
Lots happening.
Good. For a while, it's a lot.
You don't have people in there.
No, I really, there's one house for sale in Wakefield, nothing to rent at all.
It helped a little bit.
And if I could build a few, get a little bit of, do is you take one, take whatever you make off that, dump it into the next one. About every fourth one, you gotta be able to build cash flow. I mean, you gotta be able to build with not marketing, if you do it right. And I got a friend of mine that's doing that in Manhattan, he can't build it fast. I mean, they're sold before they're finished. I mean, it's just crazy.
She has.
And he's getting 280, 290,000.
Yeah.
These things over here.
Yeah, we're getting there.
See now Beloit got a deal like that. And theirs is the same concept of this over here, and I think they're gonna build 6 in Beloit. And their down payment portion of that grant was 30 grand. Not 20. So, but it's,
Yeah.
they get the same concept as what these are over here, but they're doing it in Beloit. And I think Austin Gilliard was doing this. I think he helped them go through the paperwork, because it's a nightmare that government, I mean, trying to do the grant. But I think he helped them at Beloit to get that. But you know, if you can do that.
Yeah.
We're gonna move this podium over here. You're shooting my clear.
Last one we did was right.
Just part of it.
2 big land auctions now. Two land auctions in Wakefield. Here in a couple of weeks.
There's and next month, just to do that.
I have two auctions in my building, one on 25th and one on 27th.
Just need a couple million.
68 acres and 80 acres. Somebody, I mean, something's gonna have to.
Yeah.
Something's gonna have to give here pretty quick, because you can't make anything off of it if you're spending $3,000.
If you can put a pencil to it, everybody can do it.
Huh?
If you can put a pencil to it, everybody can do it.
I know, but I'm saying.
That's what all the wise is.
That's
for down there.
Yeah,
You pay cash, you can make it.
Yeah, Craig Kratz says they're not making any more of it, boy.
I wish you could go into one of the auctions and say, I'll give you 500 an acre and all bids are ceased.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, well, both of them that are coming up here in a couple weeks are both, it's all broke ground. It's like it's.
No, that one.
Oh, the Baker 80 probably isn't.
Is that one across from?
No, that one is south of Preston.
Isn't that one that was,
Luthai's,
the Luthites, or is that,
it's Jerry Luthai's girls.
on the corner there?
Yeah, Utah and Sunflower.
Yeah, going into the Arboretum.
Yeah,
Set up ready to go.
It's got some waterways in it.
yeah, on that,
I mean,
north end it does a little bit.
Yeah.
Need a little bit.
Is that, okay,
You ready?
we'll resume the meeting here. in one break. Is that,
Yep.
first off the bat is that, I move we go into executive session to discuss items including the negotiation letters of the board and the teacher association notice letters pursuant to the negotiation exception under KOMA. That the opening board meeting shall resume at 7:01 in the boardroom. The executive session should include board, superintendent, and council.
Second.
And second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Great, so I put it, okay. Thank you. I played some boards.
I just did that out loud.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We're really good.
Who's driving Suburban 34?
I don't know.
You driving that? Suburban 34?
I need one.
Why is it sitting out there?
No.
That's Expedition. Is that an Expedition? Yeah. Is that the new one? No?
Oh, the one we bought.
I'm not very good at recognizing vehicles. I don't even know my husband when I'm tapping. Sometimes I'm just focused on the
You're supposed to
road.
notice that?
Focused on the road.
That's probably a good thing for you all.
It is. I have to just.
Probably a good thing.
Eyes forward.
Long drive. Well,
I'm just glad Linda's never gave me crap for being her neighbor previously when I was in high school. Oh, just cussing me, driving down the road.
So. It didn't get any better than it did.
I think I was over that.
I can't judge. I've got 4 daughters.
Say something, yeah, folks.
6 seconds.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, back, resume the regular meeting, and I move we go to executive session to discuss the private personal matters or personnel matters and the superintendent contract pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under KOMA. Then open in the meeting shall resume at 7:30. The executive session include the board, superintendent, and council.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Yeah.
No, it's not, so I can see what you go first. You will. You will.
No, I don't. I didn't get around to it.
And I'm training for bear hunts.
A bear hunt?
Yeah. Well, Idaho.
Oh, no. How much walking that is?
A lot. A lot.
On flat ground?
Idaho looks like just crumpled up piece of paper. It's just. Yeah.
With a bow or again?
Okay, regular meeting back in session and I'll make a motion that we extend the previous executive session 10 minutes.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. We're extending the second matter 10 minutes.
All right.
Okay. So it'll be 7:41.
Okay.
Yeah. It is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know, better explain it.
We have a position still open. You still have to be on it.
Industrial arts, high school.
No, they did. So they, you know, like.
So ELA at the high school or middle school? So we had two ELAs at the middle school. Because you're hiring one tonight, so, oh, that's resignation. So you still, so we have an ELA at the middle school and industrial arts too.
Fifth grade at Garfield is still, we're seeing who's gonna shift there, but
I thought March 1st was a deadline.
Won't be a flexible.
ish.
Ish, well, you're 10 days ish in.
It's not August yet.
Well, I don't want to be in the gym looking for.
Oh, but overall. Pretty good position. Mark. Yeah, things will still change.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Good to go. Okay, we'll resume the regular meeting. Move on to personnel, approve the personnel. So I moved to approve personnel report, including supplemental updates as presented.
Second.
And second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. And then I move to give final approval for 1 year extension of the contracts of employees listed below.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Move adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.